Good evening, I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations is calling for more to be done after a Public Complaints Commission report into the death of a Prince Albert infant during a Prince Albert police response. A report into the death of 13-month-old Tanner Brass by the Saskatchewan Public Complaints Commission was released this week. It details how two Prince Albert police officers failed in their response to Kyra Frenchman's call for help during a domestic incident on February 10th, 2022. They took her into custody and left baby Tanner with his father, Kai Brass, despite her pleas. Brass is alleged to have killed Tanner and is currently awaiting trial on second-degree murder charges. FSIN and Frenchman's lawyer, Eleanor Sunchild, said it was clear the woman was begging for help. They called for a full coroner's inquest and intervention from the Ministry of Corrections and Public Safety. Police Chief Jonathan Bergen retired yesterday, but the FSIN says that's not good enough, saying the two frontline officers and senior management need to be held accountable.
In the future, we ask, and I know the mother, Kala, here, would say this, we wouldn't want this to happen to any other mother again. We don't want to lose any more children this way. A simple 20-second walk could have saved this child.
And former Police Chief Bergen released a lengthy statement Thursday night, saying in part new leadership is needed to implement the Commission's recommendations. He also said he and his family have been subjected to anonymous attacks. Winnipeg's mayor says there is no municipal funding available to search area landfills for missing Indigenous women's remains. Mayor Scott Gillingham told reporters the city doesn't have any funding to contribute to area landfill searches. It's believed the remains of the victims of an alleged Winnipeg serial killer were disposed there. He was responding to a recent feasibility study which said it could cost up to $184 million to search the landfills. A study ordered after Winnipeg police said in December 2022 that it was not feasible and sparking widespread outrage. Gillingham said though the city can't help fund the searches, he has reached out to Indigenous leaders. The mayor was speaking at a press conference about federal funding for youth gang prevention program. And we'd like to hear what you think about the mayor of Winnipeg saying there's no funding available. Here's how you can reach out. You can send your emails to news@aptn.ca or leave a comment on our website, aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. A grieving Winnipeg father has started a drug awareness campaign in the wake of his son's death. He launched a No Thanks event in the northern city of The Pas, Manitoba. Joe Foray's son, Harlan Foray, was one of 4 people to overdose on a night out with friends last month in The Pas, but the only one who couldn't be revived. RCMP said the group thought they were taking a party drug, but it was laced with a toxic opioid. Foray says if Harlan had said no thanks when offered the drug last month, he'd still be here.
Recreational drugs aren't safe today. You know, there's a silent killer that's lurking within them, and that's fentanyl. And you can still have fun and make it home and be alive the next day with just 2 words, you know, no thanks.
With dozens of fires out of control in BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, many communities are experiencing poor air quality. Calgary has seen an air quality health index of 10 plus yesterday, the highest level that can be given. Yesterday, Edmonton activated an extreme weather response for air quality for the first time. The city has also experienced an air quality index of 7 or higher for 3 straight days. And the smoke is traveling east and south to Manitoba and the U.S. University of Alberta professor Dr. Doris Sturtevant says it can be dangerous to be outside when air quality is so low.
Anyone who is outside at 10 plus may experience certain symptoms that are attributed to the poor air quality. So they may experience irritation to their eyes, nose, and throat. People may have coughing or wheezing, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing. So really at 10 plus, we're recommending that everyone stay indoors.
A groundbreaking ceremony was held in Whitehorse to mark the construction of the Yukon's first Indigenous-led shelter. Dozens turned out to mark the construction of the 32-bed Family Preservation Wellness Center. Once constructed, it will provide safe housing to Indigenous women, children, and women who identify as LGBTQ2S+. The project is being led by the Council of Yukon First Nations. Officials say the building will help address critical gaps for women and families fleeing violence, experiencing homelessness, or dealing with mental health and addiction issues. The shelter is expected to be open for occupancy in the fall of 2024.
And how important prioritizing protection of women and children. Those are the lifeblood of our families, of our communities.
Time to step aside for a quick break, but we've got Sports with Stranger coming up. Looking back, with summer just around the corner, hockey season is starting to wrap up and tournaments and championships are happening all across the country and internationally. Here's Daryl Stranger now with a few Indigenous players making impacts for their respective teams.
In the NHL, we are down to the conference finals, the final 4 teams left standing. The Florida Panthers versus the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Dallas Stars versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, Brandon Montour from Six Nations of the Grand River has played a starring role for the Panthers all season long, and these playoffs are no different. Zach Whitecloud from the Sioux Valley Dakota Nation in Manitoba is also a major contributor on the back end for the Vegas Golden Knights. And although his play on the ice has been great, a recent incident with an ESPN announcer making a joke with his last name made headlines. But Whitecloud addressed the issue, and he and the Vegas Golden Knights are now looking ahead to punching their ticket to the Stanley Cup final. In international news, Ethan Bear from the Ochapowace Nation in Saskatchewan is playing for Team Canada at the Men's World Hockey Championships hosted by Finland and Latvia. That tournament runs until May the 28th. In more local news, the National Aboriginal Hockey Championships just happened here in Winnipeg. The championships are an annual event for the best under-18 Indigenous players in the country.
It's very important for the kids to represent their province, their hometowns, where they come from, and challenge the rest of the top Indigenous players across the country. Not only is it a great tournament in regards to hockey, but the friendships that they build and that they make, the experiences that they have, learning more about their culture or a different culture or a different province is very important for the Indigenous kids to meet other people from around the country, to be here in Winnipeg and experience the wonderful people here.
It's just important because it's one of those things, have 1 year round where a bunch of, Indigenous players are playing in a big tournament. They get to come from all over Canada, to play one place and really connect with other people, I think, which is really great.
It's a gathering of all Aboriginal players from all over Canada, and it's really cool to see all the talent and skill, all the teamwork in a short amount of time.
This year saw both the men's and women's finals be played between Team Ontario and Team Manitoba. On the women's side, Ontario won 2-1, and on the men's side, Manitoba won 5-2. And just down the highway in Portage La Prairie, the National Junior A Championships are being held. Playing a key role for the Saskatchewan champion Battleford's North Stars is Kobe Bear from Peguis First Nation in Manitoba. And there is some exciting news regarding the Fred Sasakamoose Chief Thunderstick National Hockey Championship in Saskatchewan. APTN will be broadcasting the men's and women's final on Saturday and Sunday, with Clarence Iron doing play-by-play and John Chabot also joining him. You can watch the women's final Saturday at 8 p.m. Central and the men's final Sunday at 9 p.m. Central. That's just a little bit of what some Indigenous hockey players are up to across Turtle Island.
Awesome stuff. Well, in other Fred Sasakamoose news, this week the organization I Love First People returned to the Takakoop First Nation in Saskatchewan for a special event to honor the legendary Fred Sasakamoose. They held a viewing of the movie Bones and Crows and gave the school a very special gift. In 2016, the organization unveiled a stylized mural of Sasakamoose's NHL rookie card when they did a screening of the movie Indian Horse in the community. The rookie card mural was returned to Takakoop last night. Josie Lezian speaks for I Love First Peoples.
We had shown the movie Indian Horse, which resonated so deeply with the life story of Fred Sasakamoose, even though it wasn't necessarily portrayed to be his life story. We were so saddened when Fred passed away of COVID, and this banner that he loved so much, we felt belonged in the school. Fred, lived and breathed for the children of Atakakoop.
To the arts now, and a story about West Coast art meeting Eastern Canada in a new museum exhibit at Montreal's Museum of Fine Arts, featuring the life's work of master carver and living legend Dempsey Bob. Lindsay Richardson was on hand for the show's opening. Here she is with more.
That's how we got the wolf plan from her.
This is more than just a museum exhibit. For the artist, it's more like a family reunion.
Even now I can feel these guys. They're like my children, and I haven't seen them for a long time. And this one little piece was looking at me, this little mask, and saying, "Where the hell you been, Dad? It's 40 years, Haven't seen you for 40 years.
This is Wolves, the art of Dempsey Bob, the first full career retrospective of the Talton Tlingit artist's work. The more than 60 pieces here were wrangled from private collectors, pulled from storage, or loaned out by the National Gallery.
We never thought we'd get this far, you know what I mean, like in one lifetime, because of where we started. And you can't hold monuments up to yourself, because how you can get better, right?
Yeah. Bob is one of the most prolific carvers of the Northwest Coast. An Order of Canada inductee and recipient of a Governor General's Award. But when he started out, there was little interest or market for coastal art, something that started to change in the early 80s.
The idea that he's reviving his culture is so important, because he was not allowed to carve, because his people were not allowed to express their culture, their religion for so long. The idea that he can be here in this museum now, and that we're all surrounded by this magical production. It's so meaningful, it's so empowering, it's the way it should be.
Historical coastal items are displayed as objects of curiosity in museums across the world, like these two totem poles at the Humboldt Forum in Berlin, purchased by an explorer for $65 back in the 1800s.
If you compare it with costs for logistics or transport, it was much, much less.
Institutions are slowly warming up to the idea of repatriating these cultural items. The National Museum of Scotland, for example, returned a stolen memorial totem pole to the Niska'a Nation late last year. Bob says these items are important for education, but also important, acknowledging how they were used in the past.
When we were in British Museum, we felt like the pieces wanted to come home with us. And we sang them a song. And it was really powerful because they haven't heard a song for 200 years. They were used in dance, the masks, and, with songs and acted out, and you know what I mean? They weren't just pieces, and they were like part of us and living pieces.
Meantime, to Bob, this show is a celebration of how far Indigenous artists have come.
We didn't know how to make tools. We didn't know what kind of wood. We didn't, but we knew the stories. I was lucky I learned the stories.
The exhibit runs until September 10th at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
Wow, absolutely stunning work there. Time for another break. Coming up, a new episode of APTN Investigates airs tonight right after the news. We'll speak with the reporter of the investigation after the break. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. And as night begins to descend on Yellowknife, our very own Charlotte Mort Jacobs sends us this photo of her guard dog and cat as they lay claim to their favorite piece of furniture. Thanks for that, Charlotte. Hope you're doing well. Send us your pictures to share at aptn.ca if you want to be featured as our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, sunny and 23 for Fredericton, 15 in Halifax. +1 with snow for Kuujjuaq, rain and 6 in Nain. Showers and 23 in Montreal, rain and 18 for Val-d'Or. 13 with rain in Sault Ste. Marie, rain and 19 in North Bay. Showers and 15 for Thunder Bay, rain and 18 in Sioux Lookout. 13 for God's Lake, Norway House and Puckatawagan. 26 in Winnipeg, sunny and 25 for Dauphin. Rain and 27 in Regina, cloudy and rain in Saskatoon with the high 25. Smoky and 24 in Meadow Lake, smoky and 21 in Buffalo Narrows. In northern Alberta, smoky and 27 for Peace River, 24 and smoke in Fort McMurray. More smoke and 28 for Edmonton, Lethbridge and Medicine Hat. 22 for Vancouver and Victoria, 31 in Kamloops. 25 with rain in Prince George, 24 in Smithers. 17 in Old Crow, 18 for Whitehorse. 15 in Yellowknife, 24 in Norman Wells. +1 with snow in Sax Harbor, 15 for Pawlatuck. -4 in Chesterfield, 3 below in Whale Cove. -9 with snow in Resolute, 7 below with snow in Joe Haven. The city of Winnipeg has become the epicenter for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in Canada. Tonight on APTN Investigates, journalist Brittany Guillot looks at the impact a recent string of murders is having on the community and examines the ongoing battle by family members to search local landfills for their missing loved ones. With more on that story, Brittany joins us now. Brittany, thanks for being with us. Can you tell us a little bit about your latest story, Voices of the Landfill?
Yeah, so Voices of the Landfill, it's a story that I've been working on for the last several months that focuses on the violent uptick that Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit people have been facing in the city. So last year, a Winnipeg man was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, and several of his alleged victims are believed to be located in the landfills here in Winnipeg. So with this story, I really wanted to follow along the events as they unfolded and really to contextualize some of the data.
So what did your investigation find?
So the investigation found a number of things. The first being that Indigenous women accounted for 65% of all female homicides. So that's a time period from 2018 to 2022. Last year alone, Indigenous women accounted for nearly 20% of all homicides, while making up just 6% of the population. So Indigenous women also accounted for every unsolved female homicide in the last 5 years. So it's a really vast overrepresentation.
For sure. How do the affected families here that you speak with move forward?
Yeah, so Cambria Harris mentioned to me that the best thing we can do as a society is to work with our own individual circles to keep Indigenous women safe. She also said that it's important to keep pushing for the governments to move forward with the search of the landfills.
Well, Brittany, really looking forward to tonight's episode. Appreciate you taking some time to speak with us about it.
Thanks, Dennis.
And you can watch APTN Investigates Voices of the Landfill in just a few minutes from now, following the APTN National News. Canada's largest powwow kicked off this week in Winnipeg by showing off the power of youth and two spirits. APTN's Trevor Wright has that story.
in light of everything else that's happening to our people and to what's happening in the city, this is a coming together of our young people, and I can just feel their spirits.
Grand Chief Kathy Merrick of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs could barely contain her excitement. We caught up with her at Manito Ahbee. For Winnipeggers, the festival is lifting spirits. Kyron Potts, a two-spirit influencer, says gatherings like this are essential for the community.
So it's hard not to have a good time and feel just giddy like a little kid when you're surrounded by so much good energy and all of these incredible performances.
The Alexis Nakota Sioux Nation member is a public speaker, fashion model, and comedian.
He is a proud two-spirit person and Indigenous content creator. He is a passionate advocate who works to improve Indigenous youth's lives.
He says two spirits need to be in people's thoughts and prayers.
Really just a call to action to people when they see a young person who's genderqueer or who may be two-spirit, to not only tolerate them and accept them, but celebrate them.
This kickoff day is dedicated to youth, and for Potts, it's clear things are getting better for two spirits.
You don't need to look any further than around us to see how young these people are and how proud they are still, and how many of them are receiving teachings in ceremony and are coming back into their roots as Indigenous people.
Merrick says it's important for youth to gather here.
To witness our dances, our ancestors that danced our dances, and our ancestors that did the protocols for a gathering, and the food and everything. So it all comes together to be here for our young people and our people.
Manito Ahbee runs from May 18th until May 22nd.
Awesome!
Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Thanks, Trevor. Our first report from Trevor, who will be based in the Iqaluit. Manito Ahbee, always a great weekend. Get out there if you're in Winnipeg and have the chance to do so. You will not be disappointed, as you can see from Grand Chief there. Well, that's going to do it for us here on this Friday. There's always much more over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Stick around. APTN Investigates is up next. I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great weekend.